Hello and welcome to the Seven Figure Conversations with Asa Leveaux. I am your host, Asa Leveaux. You are in the right place at the right time for the right reason. If you have no idea who I am, again, Asa Leveaux. So in case you read that wrong and you thought it was Asa or Asia or Asa, you got it wrong. It's Asa Leveaux. And what I do is transform industry experts to become industry icons in 4 steps without coaching. So if you're like, Asa, what does that mean? What does it mean to transform someone from an industry expert to an industry icon? Well, if you are in the service-based, if you are a service-based CEO, a service-based entrepreneur, and you desire a life of fame, affluence, scale, and legacy, quicker, sooner, and faster, go to the show notes and apply by going to experttoicon.com. Remember, go to experttoicon.com. So that is not the reason why you're here, though. You're here to talk to an amazing guy who has built a 7-figure business. Why? Because for the most part, I understand my audience. I understand that you have not done that. And so what I do is I bring in those individuals that have built their company to 6-figure status to show us what the lifestyle is about, what the journey is about, things that you may not have considered, saying that you yourself would like a 7-figure business. So I'm going to get right into this because I just don't think you have to wait a long time for good things to happen to you. So I'd like to welcome to you, Dallas. How are you, sir?
All right, I'm unmuted now. I'm doing good, man. How are you doing, Asa?
Doing very well. So before we get into anything business related, anything about your 7-figure that you have built, or even the successful relationship that you have, before we get to any of that, I want to know, what did 7-year-old Dallas want to be when he grew up?
Yeah, I feel like my career aspirations really changed dramatically from when I was a kid to now, specifically from when I was a kid to my early 20s. But at 7 years old, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I don't know what it was, but I thought it was super cool to like cut people open or do weird, gruesome stuff like that. And I watched like Extreme Makeover, where they'd like do surgeries on people. And I was like, man, I want to be a surgeon. That'd be so cool. And it wasn't very long. Like as a teenager, I'm super queasy. I cannot handle bodily injury at all. If I accidentally cut myself with a knife, I like quiver for just the thought of it for the next week. So yeah, pretty dramatic change there. But yeah, that's what I wanted to be as a 7-year-old.
But that was a really good show.
Like, it was a good show. I we watched it pretty much every week.
Like they would change these people to like, wow, how did you do that? So I feel you there. I watched, when I was growing up, I used to watch Doogie Howser, MD. And that was my doctor show for sure. However, I wanted to be a lawyer. So what was the transition? What happened in your life to make you go from wanting to cut people open, even though you're queasy, to getting into real estate?
Well, I feel like there's a couple changes in between there. One thing that happened is, I started to really appreciate my grandpa. His name's actually Dallas. I was named after him. And he was super wealthy. I liked what he was because he was really wealthy, but also really frugal. He wasn't the guy to flash it at everybody or show off or anything. And always very generous to people, including his family. My grandparents took us and all my cousins on pretty fun trips. And I was like, man, that is so cool that like we get to do all these fun things. And my grandpa's paying for it. And he did his career as an accountant. So I feel like maybe from when I was 12 or so, and I like understood like, oh, money's actually a thing. I feel like, I really kind of aspired to just follow in the footsteps of my grandpa and do what he did, because it obviously worked really well for him. And so that's kind of my game plan. Even through college, when I first went to college, I had declared my major as accounting. Part of my accounting classes ended up teaching me, I had to do like some information systems classes, which were a little more like learning how to use Excel and basic coding. And I was like, man, this is actually my favorite class. And so the prereqs were all the same. They were still the same business school, but I switched majors. I had to do a couple extra classes, just a couple unique ones. And I switched to be information systems. But the whole time I was going through college, I actually was working in a sales job. I did door-to-door sales. So between semesters, I'd actually move out halfway across the country, and I'd work for a pest control company. I'd go bug people at their houses, knocking on their door and selling pest control. And I wasn't initially great at it, but after the course of just a few months of doing it for a summer, I got pretty good, and I really developed people skills. I really enjoyed persuasion, and I also, when that same role, became a team leader and manager a couple of years later, and got good at educating people and helping train people to do what I had done and replicate my results in the sales position. And so I feel like all of that kind of formulated and really came down to a crucial moment for me where I had a college buddy of mine reached out, and he was a real estate agent. So obviously real estate agents, they make money when they sell a property. So he obviously was like, hey, Dallas, I know Dallas has been super successful with his sales job. I'm pretty sure he's got some extra money around. I wonder if he'd buy a rental property. So he calls me on the phone and he tries to talk me into buying a rental property. And to be honest, I was actually not open to it. I didn't know anybody who had invested in real estate, and my grandpa, who I thought was the financial wizard. Yeah, I thought he was the most trusted source for financial education. And he had never invested in real estate and didn't really recommend it because he didn't have experience with it. And so I was kind of turned off to it until that same friend, he's like, well, Dallas, before you say no, like, you should at least talk to my father-in-law. He was a real estate investor, and at least hear his story and see how it played out for him. And so I went and met him. His name was Dave. And Dave kind of told me his story about how he was a firefighter growing up. He didn't make good money, and he was in his late 30s when he finally had somebody show him the ropes about how do you invest in real estate. And he used his small firefighter's income, but made a couple small strategic moves and started getting into real estate. And the snowball happens. Once you get started, it's easier and easier to buy more and more and more. And he's like, yeah, that's my biggest regret in life, is I wish I would have done this sooner. And so he showed me, like, in just a handful of years, from buying his first rental to, scaling that business. And he's like, I quit my firefighter's job pretty quickly and just did this. And he still does just that. And even working as a firefighter for the majority of his life, he's now living this really plush, really extravagant lifestyle, which is really amazing. And so Dave changed my mind. Dave's the one that actually convinced me to say, hey, Dallas, like, accounting, like, that could be awesome. Information systems, that could be an awesome career. Sales could be an awesome career, but really the magic's in real estate. You want to have passive income, and real estate's where that passive income comes from.
And you are correct. And okay, so with the accounting part, with the information systems part, with the little bit of real estate at that time that you had, it seems like you were divinely set aside for entrepreneurship. Because
I might have been.
Like, accounting is something, it's a class that I took at a junior college, and I did fall in love with accounting. Like, I love being able to balance the books, in class. And so having that accounting background, of course, information systems with Excel and all those different tools, yeah, it just seemed like you were really destined to be who you are now. Do you agree with that?
I don't know that I was necessarily destined to do that. I believe that people make their own paths,
yeah.
And I think that I had developed skills that are very favorable for working in real estate, having learned accounting and like organization and just like financial structure from the accounting classes. I think that's critical as a real estate investor. And then as far as like being an effective real estate investor and scaling quickly, and also now with my coaching business, I think that the stuff I learned in information systems about automations and softwares and learning how to use software and customize and adapt software for your use, just all the tech stuff and learning how to use that to leverage, to, I guess, reduce my time and effort needed to get the same results and same jobs done. And so I used, I guess, that knowledge to, number one, I have so much of my real estate business automated. I've got 32 rental units, and I spend maybe 5 to 10 hours per month. And it's like super easy. It's really, really easy to manage those, but it's because of the systems that I've got set up in place. And so that's what I teach my students, is how to automate everything. But I think that was, my education, I think, was critical. And then just, I feel like I got lucky meeting the right people at the right times and, recognizing opportunities when they presented themselves to me. I think, all played huge roles.
I will say, I would not call you lucky, because you were in action every step of the way. Like, you were taking accounting, and then you were taking information systems, and then you were doing door-to-door service. Like every step of the way, you were not on your couch watching Who's the Father at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, waiting for somebody to say, hey, I have a deal for you. So I don't even, I mean, it's cool that you think you're lucky. I think you made it, like you actually created possibilities for yourself for sure.
Yeah.
And let me just say that up front, the automation piece is blowing my mind right now. The fact that the amount of time that you actually do the work with the amount of properties that you now have and the ease and the grace that you have around that. Okay, so we're getting to that, but I have to say this first. Many times that I talk to people about real estate investing, just being into the real estate world, a lot of times that things that come up in conversation are, Asa, I don't even know where to start. Like, where would you even go? So with that, I would love to dig more into the very first real estate transaction that you ever had. What was that like in a little bit more detail?
Yeah. So I think one critical thing that everybody needs to know is that your first real estate deal is super scary because the best deals, like we're not buying brand new, nice houses or apartments. Like we're buying kind of old, ugly junkers. Not that they're, I mean, we want to stay in the middle, right? We don't want to go so junky that it's going to be a total nightmare for you, but we can get the best deals on properties that maybe need a little bit of love and care, maybe need a little bit of a facelift and maybe have some deferred maintenance on them. That's going to be the best deals that we can find. And so we want to take those best deals and maybe put that love and care into them. And that's going to become your best performing assets right there. But what people don't necessarily recognize, like they think through that thought process and like, oh yeah, I could do that. That makes sense. That sounds awesome. But then you show up and you're like about to invest your hard-earned money into this ugly piece of property. And you show up and you do a walkthrough and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I about to buy? Like, is this a good decision? And, I'd already gotten the pump up talk from, like I'd mentioned, my friend was the agent. He introduced me to his father-in-law, and both of them had me where I was like, I'm ready. Like, I feel like I know what's going to happen. I feel confident about this. And we got the deal under contract. We went to do our walkthrough, and I showed up and we'd already run the numbers on it. I was like pumped about how it was going to perform. We already did the analysis, and I show up and do the walkthrough, and my wife and I were both there. And I was like, man, I don't know if we should do this. This thing is like scary. And so I actually called my mentor back. I was like, Dave, like, I'm not so sure about this. Like, this thing is like pretty crappy. This is a crappy part of town and a crappy house. And he's like, Dallas, when we buy a piece of real estate, we don't buy it because it's cute. You don't buy it because you want to live there yourself. You buy it for the numbers, right? And if the numbers work, we want to buy that property. And so it's like, so Dallas, did the numbers work? And we just ran the numbers the day before, and I already knew the numbers worked. And he was, as my mentor, like he had no skin in the game. He is not incentivized either way, whether I buy it or not. So I trusted the numbers that we had ran together. And he's like, Dallas, if the numbers work, then do it. You got to get started sometime, so do it. And so I think the key things is, number one, you got to be willing to take a leap of faith. It's going to always be scary, especially that first one. And especially if we're buying a good deal. Good deals are going to be uglier. It's going to be scary. So got to be willing to take that leap of faith. And then number two, I personally believe having a mentor is critical. Somebody with an unbiased opinion. And that's obviously what I offer for my students. I'm their mentor. I look at their deals with them. I've got no skin in the game, whether they buy it or not. It doesn't affect me. And so I can give them a totally unbiased opinion, and from an expert's point of view, with an expert's eyes looking at their property. But you got to have that mentor. I'm 100% confident if I didn't have Dave to give me that pep talk, and if I didn't have Dave to run the numbers with me, I 100% would not have made the move and would not have bought that property.
I totally get that. And not to bash your mentor. This is not why I'm asking this question, but I do have this. Is there anything looking back? Because of course, when you know better, you do better. Is there anything looking back when having that analysis with your mentor, being able for him to really, affirm you in that moment and say, Dallas, just do it. Is there anything that he did or didn't do that now, as someone who mentors and coaches others in the real estate industry, that you like, you know what? I do this differently, or I don't do this?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is he is actually my mentor for also, he's like, hey, I mean, if you decide to do it, I'll also teach you how to be a landlord. And so he's the one that initially taught me how to find tenants and screen tenants and manage tenants and deal with repairs. And I do everything that he taught 100% different. And I think a big part of it is that he started investing in real estate like, before technology was so as big as it is now. And so he did a lot of manual processes. He would actually drive up to his properties once a month and like do all the repairs that were on his to-do list and, take rent checks in the mail and like screen people based off just phone calls, and so there's so many things. And then also, like, in my opinion, he was quite a bit behind the times as far as market rents, because appreciation had been happening, but he's owned his properties for a long time and he was making great cash flow, but obviously the purchase prices get more expensive. So you need to charge more rents. And so for the first like year or even 2 years, I was like dramatically under renting my apartments. I was spending way too much time and I didn't have as much money to invest in hiring people to do the work because I was under renting my apartments. I didn't have the extra cash flow. And I did so many things wrong. And I was like so scared of a turnover that I never wanted to raise rents because I was like, I'd never done one to that point. I didn't raise rents, so no one moved out. And I was like scared of a turnover. And so there's a lot of things that really were hurting me. So my first year, after 12 months, I averaged about $800 a month in cash flow, which was still awesome. Like I was really happy with $800 a month. That was about enough to, not quite, but almost enough to pay for the 1-bedroom apartment that my wife and I were renting at the time. So I felt like we were making a huge win. But that same building, I haven't done anything to it. I maybe put new carpet in 2 of the units, a 4-unit building. I maybe put new carpet in 2 of the units. I did new floors, like new LVP flooring in 1 of the units. And other than that, and a new paint in 1 of the units. Other than that, everything's the same. It's just kind of, minor cosmetic stuff. And for the exact same unit today, that same building brings in a little over $3,300 per month. So more than quadruple. I've more than quadrupled my cash flow just by learning how to manage it properly. And it was really like almost a 1-year change. I went from $800 a month to about $3,000 a month within a year or so, just by like a year. Yeah, just by learning how to manage properly. I actually went and invested in some coaching myself and combining that with some tips and tricks that I learned on my own and kind of picked up here and there from research and experimenting. Yeah, I got really good at managing my properties, and it was just the right know-how, the right knowledge, quadrupled my cash flow. And I have a ton of my students that join my program that already I love working with people that already have rentals because they join my program. We take what they already have, and I'm almost always able to help them double or triple or sometimes more the cash flow that they're getting on the rentals that they already own.
Okay, for those of you who are listening, if those of you who are watching us right now, did you not hear what this man just said? he's able to turn, like, you really did triple. You tripled your own money within a year. Like, we could turn the podcast off now. That's enough. That's enough, but we won't. That's enough information to, if you're listening to this and watching this, if you aren't in the show notes by now, doing your best to find out how to get in front of Dallas, how to get coached by him, you're wrong. I'm just gonna say that. You're wrong if you're not in those show notes already. Okay, so, but thank you for that story because that is so significant because at first, my whole thing was, oh, okay, you're supporting those individuals that have desired to get into the real estate game, have always had that dream of that possibility what real estate can really do for their lives. And it's not just them. It's also for people who have already taken the leap and maybe not just 1 time or 2 times, maybe up to 5 to 10 times. So you really are like, yeah, you're that guy for real estate. You're really that guy. That's exciting to me. I take real joy when I find people that can do true transformation for their clients. And I don't care if it's a mindset transformation or a money transformation or a heart transformation, as long as something can be done and the client can see, wow, as a result of being connected to this human, these are the different things that have changed. So I just really appreciate that. What has your wife thought about this journey that you've had?
Yeah, I mean, having a supportive spouse is huge. Obviously, it feels risky making that first real estate move. So, I mean, she was on board. She's like, "Hey, I trust you. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know anything about this, but I feel like you're smart and I trust you. And so if you want to do it, let's do it." And she's kind of had that mentality the whole time. Like she's had full faith in me. And luckily, the choices I've made have worked out really well. And so I think that if I made, if it wasn't working, I probably would maybe lose her trust a little bit. But I worked really hard to make sure that what I was doing and I was putting in the effort to make these assets perform. And so she's been super, super supportive. One thing that's maybe been a little bit harder is, so now I guess it took me about 3 years from the time I bought my first rental property. I bought as many as I could, as fast as I could. I was making really good money at my sales job, but I was living off like 30K a year. And between our 1-bedroom apartment, we had cars. I already had our like cheap cars that we had paid off. And so I actually sold an Audi. I had an Audi. I got rid of it because I was like trying to be more frugal and have more money to invest in real estate. So I was living like as poor as I could to save up more money and invest in real estate as fast as I could. But it took me 3 years of doing that. And I got to the point where I was making well over 6 figures in cash flow per year. And so I was 28 years old and I was like, you know what? Like I'm making twice as much money as we spend. We had upgraded our lifestyle a little bit. We bought a house and had nicer cars and stuff. But I was like, we're making twice as much money as we are spending. I think that I'm going to quit my job. And so I quit my job and just kind of retired for a bit. And that was awesome. We traveled a lot. We had a lot of fun. But one thing that I think was harder was going from just like a really easygoing, relaxed lifestyle, especially we've got a baby now. And so I was super, super involved helping out the baby and keeping the house clean and being a lot more of an active role just with the typical home stuff. And then I was feeling a little bit unfulfilled. I was 28 years old and I had accomplished every financial goal that I'd ever had for myself. And I was playing a ton, but like none of my friends were retired yet. And I was like, you can only play so much. And I had a lot of energy and I felt like I had a lot left to give. And so that's why I decided to start my coaching program. It's about 3 months after I retired. I was like, you know what? I think this is what I'm going to try. And it turned out great. But anyway, that was a little bit harder because, now it's like, sweet, even though I don't need this money, I'm still working probably 40, sometimes 50 or 60 hours a week with this coaching business, trying to build great content for my students and be involved in their purchases and transactions and being of service to them. And it's a lot of work. And it's work that I don't need to do. Like, I mean, as far as our finances go, we don't need this money. This is kind of just I guess more like a passion project. And that's really where I've been extra appreciative of my wife just being supportive, is she recognized that, hey, this is something that, one, brings Dallas fulfillment. Two is, I think, she believes in the cause and helping people try to have in their lives what we have. And but regardless of it, I think having a spouse on board with what you're doing is absolutely critical.
As someone who is successfully divorced, I must say that is everything at times, to go home and not really know, with complete certainty that you've done the absolute best thing in that moment, even though it turns out good. You just, you don't know what you don't know. And for someone to just look at you like, you know what? I trust you. Like, we're going to be okay still. That's sometimes better than a payday. Like, that is the payday. Like, just having someone to truly just walk step in step with you, hold your physical hand or your proverbial hand through that. And it feels to me that the support that your wife has given you during this journey, you literally bottled that and now give that to your clients. That's what it feels like. It feels like she was or is the gold standard for that support, and now you offer that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously support my clients. I think a lot more of what I do is tactical coaching, right? I'm helping my clients make strategic moves. But a big part of that is support, especially if they're in a road bump and they're having a struggle and trying to get past something or have an issue that we need to find a solution for. Yeah, a large part of what I do for sure is support people, and having that support is critical. I don't think that my role as their coach can completely replace having, if they're in a relationship, if they have a significant other, then I don't think that my role can replace having your significant other on board. But I do obviously provide support for my clients on top of tactical coaching.
That's very good to hear. And as you all that are listening, write that down. Like if you are looking for yet another reason to hire Dallas to support you in the real estate industry, the real estate world, that's it. So it's not just tactical, but it's also supportive. It's some of those soft skills. So it's not always about the numbers, but also making sure you have the confidence to just do the thing you really know to do already. And as you were getting into the coaching and you are building this, you're still building your real estate portfolio. And now you have this family with a wife and a baby. Do you ever feel, or have you ever felt that you couldn't manage it all? Or are you someone that has been blessed with just that knowing, like, I got this?
No, I totally get stressed out. Yeah, I get times where I like can't sleep, or times where I feel like I can't eat just because I've got anxiety. And it's usually if I feel like I'm overwhelmed, I've got too many things on my plate all at the same time. And, maybe stuff in my business, there's, parts of my software are breaking and things aren't working the way they're supposed to. Plus on top of that, I've got my coaching clients that I need to have calls with that day. And I feel like stuff kind of stacks up and I feel like I'm like, man, what is happening? Or, if it's rental properties, maybe I've got, a water leak and it's like this urgent thing where I've got to get somebody over there so the water doesn't cause damage to my unit. And at the same time, I've got 3 tenants that are past due on rent, and I've got a tenant that's like a month past due, and I need to either evict them or get them out. And like sometimes stuff just stacks up, and I do feel overburdened. And I think, for me in times like that, I think the most important thing is to recognize that, hey, it's going to be okay. Even if the worst case scenario happens, like let's say, man, this flood because of this leak just like totally wrecks my apartment. Well, insurance is going to cover it. They're going to get somebody out there, do all the renovations, and I'll have my deductible to pay and I'll be good to go. Or if it's my, something my business just breaks and I'm, end up being late to client calls or whatever, like at the end of the day, people are people. And I'm sure, worst case scenario, if I totally miss their calls, then it's like, I'm sure they'd understand. Like if you go through and play through the worst case scenario and recognize, hey, like even if the worst thing happens, I'm still going to be alive. I'm still going to, have the people I love in my life. I've still got a lot of great things going for me, and it's going to be okay. And that's for me probably the best tool to deal with those stressful times.
I think that's a word for all of us. Every entrepreneur watching and listening, like it's going to be okay. Like regardless, it's really going to be okay. And with you talking about your clients and the work that you do for them and the successes that you've had personally, what do you feel are 1 or 2 common mistakes, common things that your clients or even you used to do in the world of real estate that people should be mindful of or work with you to fix?
Yeah, the biggest one's really easy for me, and that's hiring a property management company, especially if you're a new investor. The thing with property management companies, there's a lot of things that I don't like about them, but a big one is, number one, they've got tons of properties, usually in the same area. Usually property management companies manage for a larger, greater metropolitan area, or at least a specific city or state. And anyway, they've got a lot of vacancies because they've got a lot of clients. So they've got a lot of vacancies all at the same time that they're trying to fill up everywhere. And they need to have a lot of leads, a lot of applicants coming in, so that way they can have enough lead flow to fill all of their units. And if they're needing to get that many leads coming in, they have no choice but to keep prices low, right? The only way to get lots and lots of leads coming in is to keep prices low. And then with that high lead flow, they can make sure they're keeping all of their clients' units filled, which is an important rule for them. When you only have one, for most starting landlords, even with me with 32 units, it's rare that I have more than 1 unit vacant in the same city at the same time. That's just not very common for me. And so when I post a listing, I can post it and charge top dollar rent because I only need 1 person who's willing to pay top dollar rent who also passes my screening process. And so I don't need 10 or 20 people that I can move in. I need 1 person. And so I can get away with charging top dollar rent. And if I find somebody who, hey, I really need to move in quick, or maybe I don't have the best credit, but, and so most big apartment complexes won't approve me, but I really need a place to live. And those are the people, it's like, hey, well, I'm a little more flexible than big apartment complexes. I'm going to look at your whole scenario and make sure I feel comfortable with you as a tenant. And if things go well, I'm going to be able to move you in. And so I can charge a lot more rent and be a lot more profitable by only having those 1 or 2 vacancies. And that's a huge part. Yeah. On top of that, though, most property management companies are also incentivized for you to do repairs. Like when you have a repair that needs to be done, they usually will charge you for the repair, but then they'll also typically charge a premium. And so I've actually, one of my friends of mine, he's a property management guy, and he says, yeah, honestly, I make a lot of like a good chunk of my money in repairs by overcharging on the repairs that need to be done. And he was actually sick of his business because he felt bad. He's like, that's just the only way I can really be profitable is by overcharging for maintenance. And he's like, I don't like doing that. And I'm kind of tired of doing that. But anyway, that's a true reality for most management companies is not only are you getting less rents than you should, but your expenses are going to be higher than they should. And then you forfeit all your control, right? One of the great things about owning real estate is you can actually do things to influence your business. You can do things to add value and increase rents. You can do things to keep your expenses lower by shopping around for services or canceling services, or maybe even doing something yourself if you want to. And if you hire a property management company, you pretty much forfeit all that control, which I think is never a good idea. So that's the biggest one. Yeah. Hiring a property management company is for sure the biggest mistake. I see almost all of my clients that already got started without my help. Almost all of them either hired a property management company, or if they're self-managing, a lot of times, even though they are self-managing, which is great, they're not maximizing it, right? They're not capitalizing on it. I'd say the next biggest mistake is thinking that you need to have money to invest. Obviously, by definition, an investor.
Okay, hold on. You're going to tell us that you don't need money to invest?
I mean, it's going to be, it is possible. And we help our students do it all the time. If we're not putting our own capital into properties, we're putting something else in, right? It's not free, right? We're contributing something to the equation. And so, but I mean, I'll just kind of walk through it really quick. So most people feel like, oh man, to be able to get started as a real estate investor, I need to have money. And if we have money, it's way easier because then it's just you're a one-man show. You take your money, buy a property, and it's really, clean and simple. And honestly, that's my favorite way to buy a property. I love buying property with my own money because it's so easy. I started out as a passive investor. I was working 60 to 70 hours a week at my sales job. And so this was on the side. I didn't have time to be an active participant, like, making deals happen and things like that. And so, that's the goal we want to get to, is where we're using our own money to invest. An investor, by definition, is someone who takes their own money and puts it into an asset that's going to produce, future income. And so eventually we do want to get to the part where we're investing our own capital into real estate. That's the most passive way. But that doesn't mean you have to have money to get started. If you don't have money, then all we're going to do is find somebody that does have money and wants to be a real estate investor, but does not want to learn how. They don't want to learn how to analyze deals. They don't want to learn how to find deals. They don't want to learn how to do the due diligence and make sure the deal that you found is a good deal. And then they don't want to be a property manager, and they don't want to deal with tenants and toilets and, whatever else. And so we find those people, and these are the people that they make good money. They're doctors, they're lawyers. They just work at another professional job where they make good money. They're probably already investing in stocks, or they're maybe trying out cryptocurrencies. And as well as I know right now, if they're investing in those things, they're not happy with the performance of those assets. Obviously the typical investment markets are really doing crappy right now. And so these people, they want to invest, they want to earn a passive return on money that they have. And they'd love to invest in something stable and reliable like real estate. But the effort part is what scares them away. So you go find those people and say, hey, I'll put in the hustle, I'll put in the grind, I'll find the property, I'll manage the property, I'll do all the active part. You just be an investor. I'll just take your capital and we'll deploy that into real estate. And we'll get the loan in your name. You'll be the one that qualifies for the loan, but I'll be the business partner that does it all. And then you'll get paid a management fee for being the manager. And usually you'll get paid or you'll cut yourself in a small equity position. And depending on how good of a deal we find, we can, we don't ever negotiate the deal until we have we don't ever negotiate the partnership details until we have a specific deal. And we can make sure we're finding an equity split that's fair for the partner and fair for you. The better deal we get, the more equity you can take, being the active partner. But you'll work in an equity position, you'll get paid as a property manager, and it's a win-win scenario for everybody.
Now that was game. That was for real estate game. I appreciate you sharing that with us. And with the amount of game that you do possess in your mind and through experience, what's next for you? Like, what is the Dallas dream that you can share with us based on what you've already done? Yeah, I would love to know what's next for you.
Yeah, to be honest, like I don't get very excited anymore about making more money. Like at the point I'm at now with my coaching business and with my real estate, like we don't spend hardly any of the money that we have or make, and that's totally fine. Like for me, if I think about, oh, what if I made an extra $1 million this year? Like that honestly doesn't excite me at all. It's like, well, I'd probably do the same things I'm doing now. I already do that, and it doesn't impact my life. So I don't get excited about like doing things that are going to make a bunch more money. For me, I get more excited about being successful in spaces that I haven't been successful in before. So it's been super fun to grow a coaching business. And I'm actually working with a buddy of mine I focus on long-term buy and hold real estate. I've got a buddy of mine that focuses on short-term rentals and arbitrage and doing like Airbnb and VRBO stuff. And so we're actually working with him I've got a partnership with him where I'm going to help him repeat what I've done with my coaching business and have him be the coach. And we're partners on that business and trying to, grow in that area. And I get super excited. Like every time one of my students goes out and successfully buys a property and then they're generating monthly cash flow from that property, like I get pumped about that. And so I think those are the things that I'm excited about right now is growing 6-figure landlord. Our new business is going to be called 6-Figure Superhost. It's probably going to be 4 to 6 months before we're ready to launch that. But anyway, I'm excited to grow our business, and I'm excited to help people in general, whether it's with long-term real estate or short-term real estate, help them, have positive change in their life and have the freedom, financial freedom to, live the life and the dream life that they have always wanted to.
So I thought I liked 6-Figure Landlord, which I still do, but I really like 6-Figure Superhost. That touched me. Kudos to you guys for that. And with just that same lane of desire and success, I say in every single episode, I am addicted to joy. I have a thing about radical bliss. So even though I'm definitely aware you as a business owner, you as a property owner have had days where things just got very real for you, maybe even very real for your family. And I get that, like that's a given. And I'm not here to go down the rabbit hole of the trail of tears, quote unquote. But what I am interested in is moments of the 7-figure journey bringing a complete level of joy to you. So with that being said, what is something that you can share that you've experienced or acquired as a result of the success that you've built?
Yeah, I think one big thing for us, my wife and I love traveling. And one of my goals, I was like, you know what? If I could make $1 million in a year, then we're going to take people that we love with us traveling. And so we did that. And now that's what we do. We like 6 months ago, took my cousin and his spouse to Italy with us on a 12-day Italy trip, which was super fun. My cousin worked with me at my sales job, and we loved working together. And I feel like he helped me be successful with my sales job and building my sales team. And really wanted to feel like I, treated him to something fun for helping me out during my sales role. And then
what did that feel like?
It was fun. Yeah, we had a great time. It was fun to be out there, and he's doing fine, but not in a spot where they'd be able to take a trip to Italy anytime soon. And so it's fun to help give them an experience that they probably wouldn't be able to do for a long time. And then we're actually taking my wife's family. My family goes on trips all the time because, like I mentioned, my grandpa is really wealthy and pays for our family trips like every other year. But Rachel's family, my wife's family, doesn't really do anything big like that. And so we're going on a cruise with them in February. We're going to go on a 7-day cruise and paid for everybody's cruise tickets and going to have a good time, just celebrate and make some memories together.
Now that's fun. Yeah. Those are things that I write down, things like that. That's what I write down on my goal sheet. I've read a couple of times now, I read a book called Happy Pockets Full of Money. And in that book, he tells you the goal is to have 1,000 goals, because you expand your life when you can expand what you desire. So that is something that I will definitely write down. Even though I've taken my son on a cruise years ago, but being able to take my family on a cruise. That's something I'm going to add to the list. So thank you so much for that. With all of this being said, and I know that there's someone that, and I know there's at least one that is watching or hearing us in this right now moment and thinking, okay, I believe that now is the time for me to take the plunge, for me to step off that proverbial cliff into the real estate game. However, I desire a parachute or a hang glider called Six Figure Landlord to support me in that jump. But I don't know where to go. Not only where should they go first, but what would you like to tell them?
Yeah, I would say do it. I think that having a coach and having a mentor and education, like if you're going to be doing something, then you want to do it right. You don't want to waste time and waste money and waste energy. If you're going to do it right. That being said, if you're not committed, like if you're not going to do it, like don't be the person that signs up for coaching and then like sits on the sidelines. I have a few students like that and I hate it because it makes me feel bad. It makes me feel like it's my fault that they're not being successful. And I go back and like, sometimes like, man, why is this guy, he's been in my program for 6 months and he still hasn't bought a rental property. Like what is going on? And then I go back and look at, it's like, I've texted him like 30 times and sent him emails and like, hey, let's hop on a coaching call and, encouraging him and, helping him remember the homework that I assigned him last time and no text back. I just get ghosted. And I'm like, you know what? Like, it's not my fault. He's not, putting in the work. And that makes me feel bad though. I still feel bad that that guy paid me. I took his money and he's not doing anything with it. So if you're not going to take it seriously, like don't pay for coaching. But if you're like actually wanting to do this and actually want to make something happen in your life, yeah, go check out. I've got a free training. It's really awesome. I think you'll find a lot of good nuggets. Like even if you just watch the free training and don't get my coaching, you're going to walk away with, 4 or 5 nuggets, like, oh man, that was super helpful. I'm glad I learned that. But yeah, go to sixfigurelandlord.com, SIXFIGURE landlord.com. And you'll see it. Everything points you to that free training. It's really easy to find that. And if you join the free training, we're going to invite you to book a call with my sales team. We'll talk more about your situation and see if it's a good fit. We don't accept everybody. Sometimes people aren't in the right mindset or just aren't in the right position in life. Like maybe their spouse isn't going to be on board with them or whatever else. But if you're in the right position, then, we'll explain our coaching program and how it works and see if you want to become on board. But regardless, if you, watch the free training, if you decide to book a call, everybody who books a call, we give you a free mini course. And so you get like 10 of what I think are some of my most valuable videos from my paid coaching program. You'll get access to 10 videos to just kind of get a free taste test and sample. And whether you decide to join or not, you'll have that to keep forever.
Nice. So guys, he said he's giving you a free course. Go to sixfigurelandlord.com. It's a free course. This is someone who actually has created the lifestyle that he likes to the point that he's good. Like Dallas just said, he's good. So if he's good and he has the acumen, the knowledge, the experience, the heart to help you be good, why not go there? Remember, sixfigurelandlord.com. I say again, go to sixfigurelandlord.com. And in the event that you're having us in your earbuds right now, you're preoccupied doing things, feel free to go to the show notes. The link is there for you for that right now reason. Because I feel that real estate is a way for so many people to gain a lifestyle that they love, regardless of where you are now. This could really be a game changer for you, especially when you have someone to hold your proverbial hand through every step of the process, not just the tactical part, the strategic part, but also, like I said, those soft skills moments when you just need somebody to help nudge you a little bit closer to your dream. All right. So Dallas is here for you. Dallas, it has been so great having you on the Seven Figure Conversations with Asa Leveaux show. You're welcome anytime. You're welcome to come back anytime you would like. Is there anything you would like to say before we have?
No, I guess one last thing is just be happy, guys. If you're, not in the position you want to be yet, that's, if you're watching this podcast, it's probably because you've got aspirations to, be a 7-figure earner or just be more successful in your career. And that's awesome. But don't let the future goals that you have to like take away from you being happy right now. Like, don't wait to be happy until you become financially free or until you reach your business goals. Like, just be happy right now. I promise you, if you're not happy now, you're not going to be happy when you reach your goal either. Like, people that are, it's a skill knowing how to be happy. And if you can develop that skill and just be happy where you're at and find joy in your current life, then you'll be even happier when you do have financial freedom. But you can't be miserable and just grind and not have fun. And expect that you'll feel so much happier and better when you get there. So just be happy now.
I align and believe in that message that Dallas just said. I truly do. Like, your biggest work is being happy. Like, that's your biggest work. When you are that, more happiness comes. What you focus on, you get more of. That's just the reality of it. So focus on that while you're focusing on the financial life that you deserve and desire. And with that being said, remember that if you are interested in becoming an industry icon, you would even like to know what does that even mean as it relates to who you are now and relates to who you desire to become. Please go to the show notes and go to www.experttoicon.com where you can apply. And as always, I am Asa Leveaux, dreams and radical